It was the early 1990s, and Eric Idle and Robbie Coltrane were just a couple of nuns on the run. This was also around the time when British televisions were introduced to the computer channel. Blur concluded that there's no other way, and Electronic Arts tried and failed to make a robot mascot named Bob a household name. Hello, my name is Cyril, and that's just one of the Super NES games that we're going to be talking about as we continue our journey through Super Play's Top 600. This is the show where we're reading the verdicts and counting down every single review published in the pages of Super Play magazine, even if that means time traveling back to 19th century London. We left off with game 501, which means that today it's time to focus our attention on 500 through 451. Let me tell you, we have a lot of ground to cover and not much time to do it. So let's dive right into the next 50 games in our Super NES countdown. Number 500, Fang of Edo. Decent music in parts and a smattering of quite nice bits, though nothing ever really reaches the dizzy heights of good, can't save this one from the dumper. Number 499. Super Baseball Simulator 1000. Too crude compared to the rest of the baseball games, but the music is nice. Number 498. Final Fight Tough. While the gameplay, although a tad simplistic, is varied enough to get you hooked, the challenge is a travesty. Many household pets could take up the rather pathetic gauntlet of finishing this game and succeed admirably. Capcom have become sloppy in their old age and need a good slap. Number 497, Best of the Best. For the most part, this is fine, but it's extremely limited in scope, and considering that it's essentially just a simple beat-em-up, it's hopelessly outclassed by the likes of Street Fighter 2. Number 496, Rocky Rodent. Any day now, somebody's going to produce a really frightening statistic about how we're able to reach the moon if all the mediocre game cartridges in the world were laid end to end. Number 495, Dirt Racer SFX. It's a shame that Dirt Racer be compared to Stunt Race FX, but it's an inevitable conclusion and comes off worse on just about every count. Only budding rally drivers / ram raiders really need apply. Number 494, Ren and Stimpy Time Warp. Not just another crap cartoon-licensed platform game from THQ, the crap cartoon-licensed Final Fight clone instead. Revel, revel! Number 493, Knights of the Round. You know the score by now. Smashing looks backed up with all the gameplay and lasting appeal of a broken yo-yo. Boo! Number 492, Astro Go. Engagingly offbeat, but only for a matter of seconds. Then its true colors as a lazy attempt to copy F-Zero will shine through, driving you to despair. Number 491, Super Air Diver. This is the kind of game that would look great in the window display of a computer shop, but it's sadly lacking in the gameplay department. Even the most ardent shoot-'em-up fan would only be interested in Super Air Diver for an hour or so. Number 490, Terminator 2 Judgment Day. A contender for the title of biggest waste of a license ever. Heaven knows what the T-800 would do to LJN if he ever saw it. Number 489, The Lord of the Rings Volume 1. A stunningly bad effort, saved only by the huge nature of the task and the dedication to accuracy. If the graphics and general gameplay had been tweaked, this could have been a success. As it stands, Lord of the Rings is a pretty apt name. Think about it. Number 488, Kickoff. Ridiculously flawed, badly programmed, but nevertheless reasonably enjoyable in two-player mode soccer game. Should be so much better, though. Number 487, Andre Agassi Tennis. Many of the elements of a decent tennis game are here, but they just don't gel. It's just not up to the standards of playability and fun you'd expect. After all, Super Family Tennis was written when the Super NES first came out, and that beats this hands down. So there. Number 486, Eye of the Beholder. If you're mad enough on fantasy games to stick your hand in, there's a mollusk of fun to be scraped from the bottom of Capcom's barrel of stinky fish. Number 485, Cameltry. I don't know, maybe a few camels might have been a good idea after all. A rotating Mode 7 maze game had to be done, presumably, but it's a shame the designers didn't manage something more exciting with the idea. Fun for a very short period only. Number 484, Cool World. Good looking and, on the surface, complex film conversion that, once you start playing it, boils down into not very much at all. A real disappointment after the likes of Pugsley. Number 483, F1 Grand Prix Part 2. Slick, but very difficult, and for all the wrong reasons. To be honest, these overhead view things are best avoided unless you've got a lot of patience. Number 482, Lester the Unlikely. Rotoscoping or not, Lester the Unlikely is frighteningly mediocre, with nothing to offer but a 10-minute GOP period. Number 481, X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. Why do all X-Men games seem to be humdrum, horizontally scrolling beat-em-ups? It's about time they mutated into something a bit more original. Number 480, Brandish. Definitely one for the diehards. My faith in Koei not even being able to commission a decent game is reaffirmed. Come back, Wizardry. All is forgiven. Number 479, James Pond's Crazy Sports. Slick and fun, sort of, but this isn't really a very sensible way to spend £40 or so. Number 478, Super Batter Up. Yet another baseball game rolls off the production line, flops to the ground, and lies there twitching for a while before quietly expiring. Number 477, King of Dragons. A sad pastiche of beat-em-ups. Its run, hack, and magic formula just doesn't make the grade. It looks great, but don't be misled. You may as well cut the characters out of this page, stick them on a card, make the fighting noises yourself, and save £50 while you're about it. Number 476, Faceball 2000. Faceball 2000 is a bit like a piece of bread. It'll sit quite happily in your toaster, or Super NES, for about 2 minutes. But then you'll pop it out and, Number 475, The Flintstones, The Treasure of the Sierra Madrock. The game is right out of the Stone Age. It's a bit crap as well. Number 474, Mickey's Ultimate Challenge. Weak design means that this is worth renting for a child on a rainy day, but that's about it. Number 473, Super Widget. Another dull American game. Then, even the younger players this is aimed at are likely to get bored very quickly. Number 472, Taz-Mania. A smashing scrolling road and a great feel for the original cartoon. But, there just isn't a game in there. Not that I could find anyway, no matter how hard I tried. Number 471, B.O.B. Fun for a bit, but too unoriginal and limited to make a real impression. B.O.B. Knob, more like it. Knob? You mean like... No, I'm probably wrong. It's probably means something different. You know, best we ask our British correspondent, Lorne. Hey, Lorne, how do you define knob? Lorne? Oh no. I hope he's not just waiting for me in the rain from the last episode. Oh no, he's gonna hate me when I get back. Number 470, Super Ice Hockey. It's as if years of development in the team sports sim genre has been ignored in favor of a couple of cheap gimmicks. Number 469, the Chessmaster. If you're after a chess game on your Super NES, your search is over. But you could probably get a pocket chess computer for half the price with no obvious disadvantages. Number 468, Evil Sword. A very Japanese game, but one whose eccentricities don't make up for slack programming. A shame, as we'd hoped for a game that lived up to the Don't Lose name. Number 467, Full Throttle, All American Racing. Africa can be the cradle of the human species, but you can be sure that had Full Throttle Racing been left to survive and adapt in the hostile wilderness of millions of years ago, it'd now be extinct. Unlike, say, Street Racer. Number 466, Legend. Skillfully crafted with some cracking graphics and some novel touches. But all that can't hide its true colors as just another humdrum scrolling slasher. Number 465, 90 Minutes. A football game that's better in one player than two. And the one-player game's pretty poor. Number 464, Super Dunkstar. Basketball games need to be extra specially good if they're gonna be worth buying at all. And Super Dunkstar simply isn't. Number 463, Super Bases Loaded. Scruffy and slow, with a strange way of doing things. Number 462, Super Chase HQ. A badly made jalopy cluttering up the highways and byways of Super NES software, and destined for the scrapper. Number 461, Sink or Swim. Although it handles very nicely and a bit of thought has been invested in some of the level designs, it's not really doing anything new or pushing the barriers back. I know I'd be sorely disappointed if I'd bought this. Not flexible enough to be a real puzzler. Lode Runner Twin is more like Mario and Wario meets Donkey Kong, but not as much fun as either. The two-player mode is alright though. Number 459, X-Zone. The best Super Scope game to date, but still pretty dire. So unless Terminator 2's any good, we're gonna light a bonfire and toss our scopes into it. Sorry. Number 458, Mario Paint. By all means, buy Mario Paint for the mouse, which will come in dead handy later on. But don't expect to have much fun with Mario Paint itself. Number 457, Brass Boss. The bizarre-looking beat-em-up that's playable in its own little way, but far too derivative to make any sort of a splash. Number 456, Spawn. I fail to see how a company can recoup its development and promotional outlay on such an average game. Surely the artists and programmers could tell what sorts of old toots they were churning out as they labored away. Spawn is just the sort of title you'll ponder over and then walk away from when it's languishing in the bargain bin for a tenner in a couple of months. Number 455, Doraemon, World of Fairies. There's so much Japanese text in it that working out what's going on is nigh impossible. Progressing from one bit to the next is a matter of luck. And it's always a huge relief when you make it through another negotiation with head view section bits and then into the relative clear of the platform side of things. Number 454, Lagoon. A dull and generally unentertaining game. There's a little explore and discover enjoyment value, but the game mechanics are far too torturous and frustrating. Number 453, Boogerman. Oh, it's very funny for 5 minutes, but Boogerman is steeped in averageness. A platformer rooted in the old school. Number 452, Art of Fighting. It's a beat-em-up, and it's not Street Fighter 2, and it doesn't come close. What more do you need to know? And finally, number 451, Lethal Weapon. Sort of alrightish, but it's the same old story. There are lots of much better games around for the money. So what did we learn from this episode? Well, we learned that Superplay wasn't a big fan of Capcom's side-scrolling beat-em-ups. I mean, in this episode alone, we see them giving low marks to Final Fight 3, Knights of the Round, and the King of Dragons. Don't get me wrong, they loved the one-on-one fighters that Capcom was producing at the time, you're definitely gonna see that. But it was clear that they were growing bored of the brawler formula. You can definitely feel the fatigue when it comes to Final Fight 3, a sequel that came out in 1996. long after the genre's peak. Look, most critics were down on that third Final Fight game, I get it. But a lot of those other critics gave Knights of the Round and the King of Dragons much higher scores. The Superplay, on the other hand, was done with it all. Once they saw Ryu fighting Blanca, they just couldn't go back to these button-mashing street brawlers. That's a shame, because there are actually some really good ones that are still worth playing. But that's just gonna have to wait for another episode. And on that note, we'll be back on December 3rd to count down another 50 games, which should get us up to 401. That'll be a third of the way through the list, which means that we're eventually going to start talking about some good games. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because we still have a lot of bad to count down. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go and find a way out of 19th century London. I'll see you, and hopefully Lorne, this coming Friday for episode 4.
Hey, Cyril? Are you there? Where is everybody? Cyril!
Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Superplay's Top 600. If you liked what you saw here, then please consider telling a friend or spreading the link on social media. Because, let me tell you, these episodes take a lot of time to research and put together, and you can be a big help when it comes to spreading the word. Thank you again. Now, here's the question I have for you. What is the most surprising Superplay review from this episode? I feel like every episode has a few standouts where Superplay absolutely, positively got it wrong. Of course, that's the fun of doing a list like this. It's sometimes shocking what critics said back in the day. In other news, we'll be back later this week with more reviews, as well as the 4th episode of Superplay's Top 600. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.